Hi guys and gals, Shane Stevenson at the Buffalo Naval Park, and for today's video, women power. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about the icons of Rosie the Riveter and trying to dispel some myths about certain posters. So, you probably know what this is about. We can do it. This conversation stems from I gave a presentation at the Western New York Steel Plant Museum yesterday. They always, around this time of year, do a Rosie the Riveter Appreciation Day, and we actually had two Rosie the Riveters that were both about, one was 99 and the other was 101, I believe, and they were there in celebration of their accomplishments through World War II. So I was happy to do a presentation for them, and so I decided to spin that into a video for our YouTube channel. So let's, I'll bring up a PowerPoint. Let's see. All right, hope you guys can all see that, guys and gals can all see that. So this is the famous Rosie the Riveter poster. Is it, or is it? This poster was created in 1942 by the Westinghouse Electric Corporation's artist, J. Howard Miller. This was originally not attached to Rosie the Riveter in any way. And if you take a look at that poster with a little more critical eye, you will realize or see that Rosie the Riveter is not identified in any way, shape, or form. There's no name, but it has become a Rosie the Riveter. Certainly the bandana, this is what everyone dresses up as. All right, yesterday at the event, we had Rosie the Riveters, and this is what they look like. But this image really did not leave the Westinghouse Electric plant through World War II. So it was seen by very few people, and it was really a wartime production poster. It had nothing to do with what we would think of as Rosie the Riveters today. It wasn't honoring women who worked in World War II. All right, it was a production thing. Let's get production done. Let's do this. All right, let's get war material built and out to the front lines. So how did this then actually, if not many people saw it, it wasn't representative of Rosie the Riveter as we would know her. So how did this become the icon for in use today? Well, this poster was pretty buried, all right, until about 1982. And then the Washington Post did this really large spread in that year's edition, more than likely a Sunday edition, of propaganda posters in the collections of the National Archives. So Washington Post does this big spread of propaganda posters. This is one of them, and it breathes new life and takes on the icon of Rosie the Riveter. But during wartime, this was not a poster that was representative. In between this poster and what I will show you is the real Rosie the Riveter, a song was released, all right, it's called Rosie the Riveter. So now you are getting a groundswell of the icon as we would know it today. But really, the real Rosie the Riveter is here. The May 1943 edition of the Saturday Evening Post, Norman Rockwell painted cover here. And now the movement really takes off. This is a fabulous painting, and so I'm going to show you, I'm going to pull out a few things here on the PowerPoint and show you some things that I find really fascinating. First things first, I love this. She, with her penny loafers and her red socks, is squashing a copy of Mein Kampf. Fabulous. I don't have anything else to say. What a wonderful addition to this painting. Now we're seeing Rosie actually listed on her lunchbox. All right, she's actually downing a ham sandwich, a nice and thick ham sandwich. And Rosie is now actually identified in the painting, unlike the We Can Do It. A wide array of buttons here. Obviously, right in the center, V for victory. It could be a victory drive or just a victory pin. Off to her right shoulder, you see the Red Cross, so she supported giving blood. Maybe in between those, you might have a Blue Star service flag. I can't really tell. I'd love to have an actual copy of this magazine in front of me to zoom in with a magnifying glass and something like that. But using a digital image, it's pixelated and it's kind of hard to tell. So it shows how supportive she is of not only the work that she and the others are doing wherever she works, but that there's this national thread that we can do it. Last but not least, I love this little addition. You see her shield, her welding goggles, and the face shield. Behind that, what do we see? This shows you what Norman Rockwell felt about women in the workplace, or at least women in wartime production facilities. There is a halo. Isn't that fabulous? It's hard to tell, and maybe he wanted it that way. So it's a little what we would call an Easter egg or a hidden egg today, right? But you have the shield, and then there's the halo just behind her. So who is this woman? She was Mary Doyle Keefe. She was born and raised and lived in Vermont. Funny enough, she was a 19-year-old telephone operator. And Norman Rockwell had written her to tell her she was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. So he asked her to pose for him. She actually posed twice. One time she was actually wearing like office attire, and he said that won't work. Wear something a little more, for lack of a better phrase, wear something a little more blue collar. And so she came in with the penny loafers and the overalls or the coveralls, and that's what he used. She was recast much more muscular than she actually was. That makes sense. He wanted to portray strength, but he also wrote her another letter apologizing that he did make her so muscular and had hoped it didn't cause problems in her life. And she passed away in 2015 at the age of 92. So a little background on Rosie's and Wendy's in general. Right, 4 to 5 million women entered the workforce between 1940 and 1945. Therefore, the percentage of women in the workplace rose from 27% in 1940 to 37% by 1945. Huge jump. The two industries that benefited most from women in the workplace during wartime production were the munitions factories and the aircraft factories, where on the average, 60% of those women 60% of the employees were women. So kind of extrapolating that out to Buffalo, we were the headquarters of two major airplane factories and corporations at that time, the Bell Aircraft and the Curtiss-Wright. Wartime production is known to be about, between those two corporations here in Buffalo, about 83,000 people. So using that average of 60%, roughly about 49,000 women from Buffalo and Western New York could have been Rosie the Riveters or Wendy the Welders or working in those factories and plants. Astounding number. So in addition, if we look at World War I and the cessation of the global conflict at that time, what happened to women? They were given the right to vote, or they earned the right to vote by having to fight for it. So it's not surprising that the cessation of World War I ends, and a year later, year and a half later, women now have the right to vote because they've developed this independence and confidence in doing things that they hadn't done before. World War II was very similar. They all of a sudden not only were the homemakers, but they were the breadwinners. They were the financiers. And forgive this the way I say this, they were the home repairmen. And it's pretty well documented that Rosie the Riveters and Wendy the Welders would take tools home to do home repair, whether that becomes electrical or plumbing or painting, caulking. They all of a sudden develop this mechanical, technical skills that they wouldn't have had before. And now they say, I'm working, I can repair things in my home that I wasn't able to do before. And so again, the growth of confidence and this degree of independence that women felt, and rightly so. There was also some struggles, of course. Rosie's and Wendy's only earned about 40 to 50% of what men did. There was always childcare struggles, all right, relying on other family members because now they are out of the home. And if they're small children, not school-age children, but younger children, what are you going to do with those kids? After the war, the men come back from the two fronts. Women, if they wanted to work in the factory, were typically demoted. Of course, aircraft and wartime production ceased or really tamped down to the point of even if there was, even if the men came home, there maybe not have needed to have as many riveters or welders, right? But they can transfer to other positions or other corporations or companies. They also struggled, as I mentioned, they were financiers, but they also struggled with balancing budgets for the home. Right? You certainly had national wartime rationing of food, gas, and fuel. You had the pressure to purchase war bonds, all right, for liberty drives and war drives. And so not only are you balancing your budget, you're trying to pay your bills, but you're also getting squeezed a little bit without that help of a potential dual income if your husband is away. And roughly about 16 to 17 million men were out of the homes. So the fight for equal pay, equal rights, and personal freedoms still, shamedly, continues to this day. But this icon is a representative figure for women, for minority groups. All right, and even men are inspired by it, like I am. It's just that We Can Do It is not the Rosie the Riveter. The woman on the cover of the Saturday Evening Post, Mary Doyle Keefe, is, in fact, the Rosie the Riveter. One more thing about that painting. Artists usually, imitation is the best form of flattery. Let's take a look at who the pose and the model, the pose was based on. It was based on the prophet Isaiah by Michelangelo that is in the Sistine Chapel. What a fabulous, that's so fabulous, isn't it? See, the feet are crossed the same way, the legs are in the same position. Of course, the arms, you can tell. It actually looks like the prophet Isaiah should have a big ham sandwich in his hand. But anyway, that is one of the coolest things that I have learned and seen here. Anyway, I hope you enjoy. So spread that word. Mary Doyle Keefe is the real Rosie the Riveter. We Can Do It has become that. I'm not knocking it or putting it down in any way, but next time you see that poster, say, ah. Anyway, hope you're having a good day, and thanks for all of your support, and we'll see you again soon.